There's a timeless secret that has allowed players of all generations to play at extremely high levels, and unfortunately, most amateur tennis players don't utilize it. In this video, we're going to be looking at real-life examples of Federer, of Agassi, of Sampras, and of Tsitsipas to see how they all use this secret and how it's different than many players think it's actually used. This first clip we're going to look at features Tsitsipas and Federer in the 2019 Australian Open, and we're just going to do a simple breakdown here and look at a couple shots. I chose this clip because we have this nice kind of court level angle, which is fantastic for looking at both players, but particularly the footwork here. And so what we're going to actually do is zoom in on Roger, and right when he makes contact with his serve, I'm going to pause it right there. This is just after contact. And now we're going to look at where Tsitsipas is and take a look at what he's doing with his feet. He's still in the air and coming downwards, and by the time both feet touch right here, the ball is most of the way to the net on the other side. And this is going to be the case for the vast majority of examples we look at today. We are going to see some variation, and that's what I want to kind of point out today, is show you the different ways that professional players use their feet and utilize the split step. Thing number one is just that you should be split stepping on every shot, period. Although we will see actually one example today of Federer not split stepping. It's in a very kind of outlier kind of situation. But here we see Tsitsipas touching down well after contact. Backing it up a little bit, here's Roger swinging up. Tsitsipas is leaving the court right now. Roger's hitting right there, and he's still floating downwards. So here's what you need to know. At an elite professional level, these athletes are timing their split step with when they identify where the ball is going. Is it coming to my forehand? Is it coming to my backhand? If Tsitsipas were to touch his feet down right as Roger hit the ball, it would take him a split second after that to actually identify where the ball is going. So rather than touch and then move, what he's trying to do here is time his recognition so that as he comes down, he reads where the ball is going and he can flow in that direction. And I'll show you a couple examples of that. So working our way through this point, watch this example here where Roger's going to hit the ball right now at this frame. And so again, you'll see Tsitsipas well off the court surface here. Now watch what he does. Roger is hitting this back over to Stefanos' backhand. Watch how Tsitsipas is still in the air. He's going to read a frame or two later where the ball is going, and you're going to see his left foot point outwards in the direction that Roger is hitting. So this aligns his outside foot in the direction the ball is heading, and what he's going to do is land on his right foot and push to his left. So he's not landing as Roger hits. He's touching down just after Roger hits so that he can read where the ball is going and then align his feet in the direction the ball is headed. This is super like next level stuff. And so if you're watching me right now and you've never even tried split stepping, first of all, in the first comment down below, I'm going to link to a bunch of other lessons. Today I don't have time to get into how to practice split stepping and how to develop it as a habit, but I've covered it in the past. And I'll link to those videos down below. But just start first. And so if you want to begin by trying to sync your split step with contact, I think that's a perfectly fine place to start. But when you look at the real life examples of elite players, and we're going to look at more examples in just a moment, you'll see they're not timing it with contact, they're timing it with identification. Let's look at the next shot. Tsitsipas hits a backhand. Here he jumps up in the air to see if his shot is going to be in or not. I don't recommend that. Watch in full speed here as he hits this shot. And then he kind of like hops up to try to see over the net. He's like, oh, is it in? That's not how I recommend you split step. Watch this. On the next shot, Roger hitting a forehand. Contact is right here. Look at Tsitsipas up off the court. This time, Roger hits straight down the middle of the court. And so you'll see Stefanos touch down, push himself out of the way to hit a forehand. And we'll look at one more shot here in this rally before we move on to example of Roger. But here's Roger hitting right there. Stefanos just coming up off the court. And now as we go forward frame by frame, he's touching down right now. And again, look at this, how his right foot is touching first and his left foot actually doesn't even touch on the court here. Here's him coming up into his split step. He's reading the ball is coming to his left right now, and so he's planting, pivoting, and then he's aligning his feet in the direction he needs to go so he can push in that direction. And so I've heard this referred to as like a glide step, where like they're coming up, they're reading where the ball is going, one side is touching, and then gliding in the direction the ball is coming. Let's take a look at a few examples of Roger, and you'll see this same type of pattern happening. If you're working hard to improve your game and you'd like my personal feedback and guidance, go sign up for a free account at EssentialTennisAcademy.com, because twice per week I do live Q&A sessions where I break down videos coming from Academy students. So go sign up for a free account right now at EssentialTennisAcademy.com. Now let's do a little bit of a breakdown of Rogers. Let's watch Stefanos. This is the same match here. He's going to come up and make contact with the serve right there. There's contact. And so on that same frame, check out Roger here, both feet off the court. And so as the ball comes off of Stefanos' racket, Roger's feet will start to touch down, and he touches the court right here. And so kind of similar to Stefanos, the ball is probably around the service line or so when Roger actually touches down. And then he makes his move in the direction that, notice the outside foot pointing towards the ball. So here's a situation where Roger actually did touch down with both feet. Just because they like to flow one way or the other doesn't mean they're always going to read it soon enough. And so I think the difference in kind of style here has to do with the intensity of the points, how much movement has to be done, and how early they're able to read the ball. You'll see players actually come down to a full like balls of the feet touching the court kind of position and then move sometimes. And this is one of those cases here with Roger. But the timing was clearly well after contact with Stefanos. So let's watch him play this first shot. Now this is a really interesting example because Stefanos is going to drop shot here. And I'm going to pause it at contact again. Here's contact right there. Ball is on the racket. I want you to watch Roger here. I'm going to go forwards a couple frames. And Roger is coming up off the court here. Watch how his feet plant back behind him. I found this really fascinating. Look at where he initiates his split step. He initiates his split step from right here, around the service line, the baseline, and he plants his feet like 2 feet further back. So what does this do? He lifts up, and then when he reads that it's going to be a drop shot, his feet float back, and what does that do to his body alignment? Now he's leaning forwards, and so watch his next step, how now he's like instantly in like a 45-degree pitch forwards, and he's in a sprinter stance going forwards to recover this drop shot. So watch this again. I find this like endlessly fascinating. Here's his recovery from the previous shot. Here's his split step right here, lifting up above just behind the baseline. Right about here, he's reading, oh, it's a drop shot. His feet go back, plant behind, and then push forwards. So he's floating and planting and aligning his body in the direction he needs to move before he touches down, so that as the ball is floating short, he just kind of instantly springs himself or loads himself into a sprinter position leaning forwards. And so here he hits this passing shot, and even though they're both close up to the net, watch Roger here as he lifts up right here. There's his split step, right as the ball would be getting to Stefanos' racket, and then he touches down after it actually lands behind him. Cool, huh? So now let's shift gears and go to a completely different era of tennis. We're going to take a look at Sampras versus Agassi from the 2000 Australian Open semifinal. If this has already been helpful to you and kind of illuminating, do me a favor and click the like button. It really helps more tennis players see lessons like this. Thank you so much for doing that. So going back to the year 2000 here, obviously one of the greatest returners of all time. Again, I chose this clip because of the angle. I think it's a really excellent angle to watch. So as Pete goes up to make contact, you'll see Andre take a step forwards, go into his split step, and here's contact right there. And so both his feet are still lifting up into the court. And you're going to see him use this glide step that we talked about earlier, where as the ball travels forwards, he reads that it's coming to his left side. His right foot plants, his left foot pivots. And so this is that exact same position we saw from Tsitsipas, where as he's come down, the ball's right about at the net right now, maybe a little bit past the net. And so he's fully read where the ball is going. He's planted one foot, he's pivoted his other foot, and now he's fully prepared to launch his body in that direction in an athletic way. Pete happens to ace him here, but this was just an angle that I really wanted to use to highlight the footwork pattern. And so in real time, it's really pretty incredible when you watch it in real time. I mean, and again, in ace, I would highly recommend just keep your eyes here at Andre's feet. It happens incredibly, quickly. I mean, it's all over in a split second. And so in real time, it just looks like, oh, he's moving in that direction. But he's actually raising his whole body off the court, on his way down, reading where the ball is going, and then putting his feet in the right position so that as his weight comes back down again, he can flow that body weight momentum in the right direction. So obviously, high-level players, an understatement here, using his weight and the split step very strategically to be able to pounce in one direction or the other. This is a very advanced way of doing it. And my official recommendation is, at first, when you're first starting to split step, go ahead and just try to time it with contact with your opponent, the ball meeting the strings of your opponent. But eventually, you should be striving for this type of nuance in how you're moving your feet. It's the only way you can really flow around the court the way that the pros do. In this example of Andre, you'll see him move in both directions. Go ahead and watch the clip first. He moves to his left on the return and then to his right for a passing shot attempt. And so watch the pattern here. We're going to move through this one pretty quickly. Watch how he lifts up initially. He times that just after contact, and he reads a backhand. So that means he's going to plant his right foot and pivot with his left foot so that he's able to drive himself athletically to the left to be able to make contact with that return to serve. And then after he makes the return to serve and recovers, Pete comes in for a serve and volley, which means he has very little time to respond. Here's Pete making contact with the volley right here. That's just after contact. You look at Andre, both his feet are up off the court. He's just coming down. He reads that the ball is moving to his right, and so this time the left foot plants, and his right foot is the one that pivots. So now he's in an athletic position, ready to push off and drive to his right. Again, contact of his feet being just after contact with the volley. So here's Pete with the volley right here. There's Andre touching down with the left foot right there. So the ball is a little past the net already, but that's when his eye is picking up on where the ball is actually going to be. And that's the pattern you'll see with pros over and over and over again. All right, the next example, we're going to actually look at Pete and a serve and volley, and we'll see how this compares to all the other baseline stuff we've been taking a look at. Go ahead and check out this point really quickly. Pete's going to serve and volley, hit a half volley, close forwards, and then Andre hits a passing shot. Let's look at the timing here on the footwork. So Pete comes down after the serve, takes one full step forwards, and that's all the time he has before the ball gets to Andre's strings. The ball is on Andre's strings on the return to serve right now. This is just after contact. And so if we zoom into Pete at that same moment, he's just starting to widen his feet and go into his split step. And as he reads where the ball is going and he sees it's coming to his backhand, what I find really fascinating about this example is his left foot never actually touches the court. He reads right about here, it's going to be coming to his backhand side. His right foot touches, watch his left foot, how it just kind of glides and floats over the top of the court. So he's widening his stance, and at this point, either foot could take the lead and kind of be the plant foot and push himself in either direction. But he reads it's a backhand, so his right foot takes over so that he can push himself to the left and get to the right position. And then after he makes that half volley and closes forwards, Andre gets ready for the passing shot. And this is the one time in all of the clips that I looked at that I found somebody that actually touched down right at contact. And I don't know if Pete mistimed this or if he was just trying to get a little bit of an early lead and maybe guess in one direction or another. But you'll see him lift up right here. His feet are both coming off the court. There's contact, and his feet are just coming down right after contact. Something tells me he just obviously understands that he's about to have Andre rifle a ball to one side or the other. He's got very limited time. He's close to the net. Andre's inside the baseline. And so he's probably just trying to buy himself hopefully a fraction of a second here to react to this shot. But he just doesn't have the time. And Andre crushes it past him. Awesome match. I really enjoyed going through that match footage. So long story short here, in real life, the best way to split step is not to touch your feet as the ball touches the strings. If right now you don't split step, which, let me be clear, most tennis players do not split step at all. You've all heard it, but most players watching this video don't do it. It's based on my experience coaching for 20 years now. Most players just don't do it. So if you're one of those players and you decide you want to start doing it, A, watch the lessons linked in the first comment down below. They'll show you how to practice. But B, go ahead and make it easy on yourself and just practice first by timing it with contact. That's been my advice for players just beginning since the beginning. But please know that ultimately, elite high-level athletes aren't timing it that way. They're actually timing it with their recognition, their visual identification of the ball going right or left, so that as they come down, they can pivot and push and go in the right direction. So those of you who are already split stepping, you can start to train and practice in this way by floating and pivoting in one direction or the other. So if this has been helpful, please click the like button. It really helps these videos a lot. Hopefully it helps you advance your game to the next level. If you have any questions at all, leave them down below. I read all the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.